Jeremy and Alex were ordinary high school boys, best friends who walked to school together every morning. Their route took them through a quiet suburban neighborhood, flanked by neatly manicured lawns and picturesque houses. It was a scene of tranquility, one they never thought would become a haunting memory etched into their young minds. One crisp autumn morning, as they strolled along the familiar path, laughter and animated chatter filling the air, they noticed a figure standing a few houses down. It was a man, his face obscured by a hood and his posture tense. Jeremy and Alex exchanged curious glances but continued on, dismissing the stranger as inconsequential. As they neared the corner, their footsteps muffled by fallen leaves, a chilling scream pierced the air. The boys froze, their hearts pounding in their chests. They turned to see the man, now wielding a knife, attacking a woman who had been walking her dog. Horror gripped Jeremy and Alex, rendering them momentarily speechless. The woman's cries for help were agonizing, but they were also short-lived. The man's blade glinted in the morning light as it descended, ending her desperate pleas with a sickening finality. The boys watched in shock, their breath catching in their throats as the man wiped the blade clean and fled, disappearing down a narrow alleyway. The neighborhood that had once felt like a safe haven now seemed tainted by an unspeakable evil. Seconds stretched into an eternity as Jeremy and Alex stood frozen in place. Finally, their survival instincts kicked in and they turned and bolted, their sneakers pounding the pavement in a frantic rhythm. They reached the school, their hearts still racing, and they stumbled through the doors, unable to fully comprehend the horror they had just witnessed. Throughout the day, the weight of the morning's events hung over them like a dark cloud. They tried to act normal, joining their classmates in lessons and lunch breaks. But their minds were haunted by the woman's screams and the image of the man's cold, ruthless gaze. After school, they found themselves standing outside the police station, their hands trembling as they recounted the events of the morning to a detective. Their voices shook as they described the murderer and his chilling act, their eyes avoiding each other's as if to shield themselves from the shared trauma. Days turned into weeks as the investigation unfolded. The neighborhood became a hub of activity, with police cars and reporters crowding the once peaceful streets. Jeremy and Alex's friendship had deepened through their shared experience, but their innocence had been irreparably shattered. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the street, the boys were called to the police station to view a lineup of potential suspects. Their hearts raced as they stood behind a two-way mirror, observing the lineup in silence. Among the men lined up, one face stood out to them like a nightmare resurrected. The man they had seen that fateful morning was there, his hood pulled back, revealing a face twisted by malevolence. Fear gripped Jeremy and Alex, their fingers pressing against the glass as they tried to distance themselves from the murderer's gaze. After what felt like an eternity, they stepped away from the mirror, their minds reeling from the realization that they had come face to face with the embodiment of their worst nightmares. The police assured them that the man had been arrested and was awaiting trial, but the boys knew that the memories of that morning would never truly fade. Months passed, and the court proceedings became a harrowing ordeal. The boys were called upon to testify, their voices trembling as they relived the horror for a courtroom full of strangers. The defense attorney's questions were like daggers, probing their memories and attempting to cast doubt on their accounts. But despite the emotional strain, Jeremy and Alex stood their ground. Their testimony was unwavering, their voices resolute as they recounted the events of that fateful morning. The courtroom held its breath as the verdict was read, guilty. The man was sentenced to life in prison, but for Jeremy and Alex, the scars of that morning would never fully heal. They had become unwilling witnesses to a gruesome act, forever haunted by the realization that evil could lurk in the most ordinary of places. As years passed, they clung to each other, finding solace in their shared experience and the unspoken bond that had formed between them. The memory of that autumn morning remained a ghostly presence, a reminder that innocence could be shattered in an instant, leaving behind a legacy of horror and a determination to never forget.